The story of Zheng He and the Ming voyages is one of the most fascinating and unusual episodes in world history. It is a tale of exploration, diplomacy, trade, and China's brief but spectacular foray into maritime dominance. What makes this story particularly unique is that these great voyages, which reached as far as the east coast of Africa, were led not by a military general or an aristocrat, but by a eunuch named Zheng He. Zheng He was born Ma He in 1371 in the Yunnan province of China to a Muslim family. His father and grandfather were both devout Muslims and had made pilgrimages to Mecca, giving young Ma He an early connection to the outside world, especially the Islamic world. However, his life would take a dramatic turn when he was captured by Ming forces as a child during the dynasty's consolidation of power. As was common in the Ming period, the young boy was castrated and made into a eunuch, ensuring that he would remain loyal to the imperial family. He was taken into the service of the imperial court and soon became a favorite of the Yongle emperor, Zhu Di, who reigned from 1402 to 1424. Ma He distinguished himself through his intellect, strength, and loyalty, and he quickly rose through the ranks of the court. At some point, he was given the name Zheng by the emperor in honor of his achievements, and he became known as Zheng He. The Yongle emperor was an ambitious and visionary ruler who sought to expand China's influence beyond its borders. Unlike many of his predecessors who were focused on internal stability, Yongle wanted to project Chinese power and wealth on a global scale. He moved the capital from Nanjing to Beijing and commissioned the construction of the Forbidden City, a symbol of the grandeur of his reign. In addition to these domestic projects, Yongle envisioned a vast maritime project that would showcase China's technological and military prowess while establishing trade and diplomatic relations with distant lands. His goal was to demonstrate China's supremacy to the world, bring foreign leaders into the Chinese tributary system, and expand trade. To accomplish this, he commissioned a series of naval expeditions. The task of leading these massive expeditions fell to Zheng He, who by this time had become a trusted advisor and confidant to the emperor. It was unusual for a eunuch to be given command of such a grand venture, as military and exploratory missions were typically led by generals or aristocrats. However, Zheng He's loyalty and competence made him the perfect candidate for the job. Between 1405 and 1433, Zheng He led 7 great voyages that ventured across the Indian Ocean, reaching Southeast Asia, South Asia, the Arabian Peninsula, and even the east coast of Africa. These voyages were unprecedented in their scale and ambition. At their height, the fleet consisted of more than 300 ships and over 27,000 crew members, including sailors, soldiers, translators, and diplomats. The largest ships in the fleet, known as treasure ships, were massive, measuring up to 400 feet in length and equipped with advanced navigational tools and weaponry. Zheng He's first voyage set sail in 1405 from the port of Nanjing. The fleet traveled down the coast of China, through Southeast Asia, and across the Indian Ocean. They visited kingdoms in modern-day Vietnam, Indonesia, India, and Sri Lanka. One of the main purposes of this voyage was to establish diplomatic relations and bring foreign rulers into China's tributary system, in which foreign leaders would recognize the Chinese emperor as their superior in exchange for protection and trade benefits. In Sri Lanka, the fleet encountered hostility from a local king who refused to recognize Chinese authority. Zheng He responded swiftly by capturing the king and taking him back to China, where he was forced to submit to the Yongle emperor. This display of military might send a clear message that China was not to be trifled with. Zheng He's second voyage continued the diplomatic mission of the first, with a focus on Southeast Asia and the Indian subcontinent. One notable achievement during this voyage was the establishment of stronger ties with the Kingdom of Calicut, modern-day Kozhikode, India, an important trading hub on the Malabar coast. Calicut became one of China's most important trading partners, supplying valuable spices and other goods. Zheng He's third voyage was one of his most significant. In addition to visiting established ports in India and Southeast Asia, the fleet ventured into the Arabian Peninsula, stopping in the city of Hormuz, a major trading center at the mouth of the Persian Gulf. This marked the first time a Chinese fleet had ventured into the Middle East. Zheng He brought gifts and messages of goodwill from the Yongle Emperor, establishing diplomatic ties with several Islamic states in the region. The fourth voyage took the fleet even further west, reaching the eastern coast of Africa. The Chinese ships visited ports in modern-day Somalia and Kenya, bringing Chinese goods such as silk and porcelain in exchange for African goods, including ivory, gold, and exotic animals. It is said that Zheng He returned to China with a giraffe, which was presented to the Yongle Emperor and caused a sensation at the imperial court. Zheng He led 3 more voyages, continuing to strengthen diplomatic and trade relations across the Indian Ocean. The fleet returned to Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and Southeast Asia, establishing China's dominance over maritime trade in the region. Foreign rulers continued to send tribute missions to China, and Chinese goods were highly sought after in the markets of the Indian Ocean world. The voyages of Zheng He were a remarkable achievement, showcasing China's technological, military, and economic power. Under his leadership, China's maritime influence extended across Asia and Africa, and the Ming Dynasty was able to project its authority far beyond its borders. However, despite the success of the voyages, they did not result in long-lasting territorial expansion or colonization, as the Chinese government was more interested in diplomatic and trade relations than in establishing overseas colonies. After the death of the Yongle Emperor, the Ming court's priorities shifted. The new emperor, Zhu Jianji, Xuande Emperor, saw little value in continuing the costly expeditions, and by the mid-15th century, the voyages were officially ended. The fleet was dismantled, and China turned inward, focusing on internal stability and defense rather than maritime exploration. Zheng He himself died during the 7th voyage in 1433. He was buried at sea, though a cenotaph in Nanjing honors his memory. Despite his incredible achievements, his legacy was largely forgotten for centuries, as later Chinese governments focused on land-based power rather than naval strength. Zheng He's voyages remain one of the most extraordinary chapters in world history. As a Muslim eunuch from a humble background, Zheng He rose to become the commander of one of the greatest fleets the world had ever seen. His voyages not only expanded China's influence, but also fostered a vibrant period of cultural and economic exchange between China and distant lands. Though China ultimately turned away from maritime exploration, the legacy of Zheng He and his voyages continues to inspire historians, adventurers, and diplomats to this day.